A 24-year-old mother of two murdered by her ex-boyfriend. In a confidential police report blaming cops for misconduct leading up to her death. Hello, I'm Faith Jesse. The long-suppressed police report shows how more than a dozen cops fell short of their duty to shield a vulnerable young woman. The Newsday investigative team also reveals how the officers quietly escaped with only light punishment, even though they failed to enforce laws that are critical for protecting victims of domestic violence. Our Pat Dolan follows the shocking path of Newsday's probe, which was conducted in partnership with USA Today. This is Joanna's story.
She was funny, and she cared about people.
She always had a smile that just lit up everyone's life.
Joanna Bird was the third oldest of 9 kids, a tomboy turned into a popular, ambitious, and determined young woman.
Always studying, always trying to do better.
A good student, she held several part-time jobs while still a teen, all while harboring big dreams, including a career in law enforcement.
She was going to be a correctional officer.
But law enforcement would play a disturbing role in the chain of events that eventually cost her life.
I just don't think they did their job.
Joanna's life takes a big turn for the worse at age 18 when she starts dating this man.
The minute that I seen Joanna, I was caught off track. She was just glowing.
Leonardo Valdez Cruz, who friends call Pito. 1 year younger, he was already a gang member with a hefty rap sheet. But Pito was struck with Joanna when he met her while hanging out with her brothers. He turned up the charm.
But he's so nice. He was buying the flowers, and he was buying the teddy bears.
Joanna was skeptical, but she was soon to be a teenage mom. The father, a soldier assigned to Iraq and out of the picture. Pito made it clear he wanted to be a dad to her new daughter, Nana. Within 2 years, they had a child of their own, Leo.
This is me, Joanna, little Leo, and Nana. We took a family photo together. Love, though. It was really built on love.
Once she became his girl, he started getting possessive.
But according to Joanna's family, Pito, a PCP addict, soon showed his dark side, growing possessive, asking jealous questions. He began stalking her.
He would be hiding behind a car, hiding in the bush, or hiding on the side of the house.
And it got worse from there.
And he had a taser, and he used to tase her and tell her how much he was going to kill her.
Pito's anger leads to even more violence. At one point, he tries to force her into the trunk of her car at gunpoint, then begins choking her. To save her own life, she falsely tells him what he desperately wants to hear, that she wants him back as her boyfriend.
Back at home, Joanna's mom notices something is very wrong.
And I saw strangle marks. She had strangle marks on her. And then she started crying, and I said, Joanna, tell me what happened. And then she showed me her hip. All the skin here was ripped up.
Joanna's mother drives her to the NUMC emergency room where she meets police. Astoundingly, Pito also shows up. Cops immediately arrest him, but Pito is released in a week after Joanna fails to appear at a court hearing.
We could not prove, that he either intimidated her or threatened her or did anything to her in the face of her silence and uncooperation.
She probably was scared. He probably told her something. Maybe he would harm someone or somebody if she testified.
Pito is now back on the street and in a jealous rage, suspecting that Joanna is seeing other men. In dozens of letters and phone calls, he has already threatened to kill her. And Joanna and her family are frightened by something else. They have heard Pito is a police informant, which they believe gives cops a reason to cut him slack.
She said, Mommy, they're not going to arrest him. They're going to let him go. They're going to let him go because he was an informant.
Next, what police did and did not do as Joanna's ex gets even more out of control.
She said that numerous of
She
times.
said, I know he's going to kill me.
Joanna Bird has endured months of abuse and menacing letters from her gang member ex-boyfriend, Leonardo Valdez Cruz, known on the street as Pito. Terrified, she begins sleeping in her mother's home in Westbury, but Pito continues to stalk her.
We'll keep her,
Tie her to the
radiator, lock her in the room.
Courts grant her 3 orders of protection, which require cops to arrest Pito if he comes near her. But the family says she knew a piece of paper would not save her life.
She knew, like, it was at the point where he really was going to end up killing her, and the order of protection wasn't going to stop it.
On January 9th, 2009, Bird goes to the 3rd Precinct and asks cops to arrest Pito for coming to her house in violation of the court order. Police wait 3 days before sending a detective to her home. But by then, Joanna has backed off her story after Pito threatens her.
Trying to control her, scare her. And she was scared for her life.
Former prosecutor Melba Pearson says domestic violence victims are often afraid to press charges, especially if they think police will not protect them.
They can go get an injunction, but if the police aren't going to do anything about it, they've now endangered themselves further by angering their abuser, because now their abuser knows they went to court.
The stalking continues.
On the night of March 14th, police are called to the Bird family home 3 times. Pito has barged in, threatened Joanna with a knife, and tried to smother her with a pillow. Each time, officers refuse to arrest him. Instead, they simply tell him to leave.
And all the cops would ever say was, take a walk, Pito. Go take a walk. Get out of here.
They should have clearly made an arrest here.
Author and retired NYPD Captain John Eterno says cops had a legal duty to arrest Pito for violating Joanna's order of protection.
There was a number of incidents where the officers did not do proper paperwork. They didn't do an investigation. They looked like they were trying to attempt to not make an arrest when an arrest was absolutely required.
A few days later, police do arrest Pito after he makes an illegal U-turn while driving without a license. But Pito has a get-out-of-jail card. According to a confidential police disciplinary report, he offers a detective tips on drugs and guns in Westbury, including a robbery involving Joanna's brother, Jonathan.
I just wanted to go home. So I was telling Raymond and the detectives who locked me up what they wanted to hear. I do that all the time. There's nothing wrong with that.
Pito's strategy works. Cops release him with only a summons. But before they do, they give him back his cell phone. While still in custody, he uses it to make dozens of calls to Joanna, each one of them a direct violation of her order of protection.
Violates the law. It violates policy. It violates common sense.
Meanwhile, Pito is free again, driven by rage, and determined to make good on his threats. Cops have missed yet another chance to put him behind bars, and even helped him torment his victim. Joanna Bird has only days to live. Joanna Bird is desperate to avoid her violent ex-boyfriend, Leonardo Valdez Cruz, also known as Pito. Cops have repeatedly failed to arrest him for violating her order of protection, and she is convinced that at any moment he will make good on his promises to kill her.
We'd ride past the cemetery. She would tell me that she was going to be there one day, very soon.
Joanna tells friends she's about to move to North Carolina, far from Pito's reach.
She was ready to leave him. She was ready to go on with her life.
But the plan comes too late. On March 19th, it is a cold, rainy day. Joanna calls her mother, who is at home with Joanna's sister, Melissa. Joanna is terrified.
So Mommy, help me. Help me. He's in the house. I can't get out.
And
He's
me and my mom.
Help me. Help me.
Melissa calls 911.
My sister's boyfriend is in our house and he won't let her come outside.
Melissa and her mother race to Joanna's house in Newcastle, blowing every stop sign. Joanna's door is locked and there is no answer. Police arrive, but to the family's total horror, cops refuse to enter the home.
We're telling the officers, we know she's inside and we know she's hurt. If you could just open the door, if you could just kick down the door and go in there. He's like, it's protocol, I can't go in there.
We can't do that.
With no answer from inside, police decide it's a possible hostage situation. So they wait for a SWAT team and a hostage negotiator. Minutes seem like hours as the family begs police to take action. But the officers don't go in.
A huge mistake, says former NYPD Captain Johnny Turno.
There's not even a need for a warrant in this case. The officers should have taken down the door and done their best to save her.
But according to the family, cops don't seem to be concerned at all.
None of them took it serious.
we
They were laughing, they were cracking jokes.
Police deny there was joking, but the mood changes when Pito suddenly calls his sister Oria, who is at the scene.
And the police were standing right there, and she said, Peter, what did you do? He said, you know what I did? I told you what I was going to do. Remember when he said that?
Yeah.
I told you what I was going to do. He said, the body's in the house.
Hearing that, cops finally rush in and break down the front door. They find Joanna dead on the stairway, lying in a pool of blood, with deep stab wounds to the head and neck.
I just keep thinking they could have saved her if they would have just kicked in the door, instead of standing outside cracking jokes.
They should have done more. He shouldn't even have been on the streets.
Took an innocent life for nothing,
Still hurts that she's gone.
Yes, to this day, like I think about her every day.
Next, the internal affairs investigation into the cops involved in the case of Joanna Bird and the all-out campaign to keep the results secret.
And she always said the police weren't going to help her. She always said that.
A popular young woman with 2 kids and a bright future.
She did everything for us, and she loved us.
Fatally stabbed in her own home after being stalked for months by her ex-boyfriend. A year after Joanna Bird's death, Leonardo Valdez Cruz is convicted of first-degree murder. But questions remain. Why did cops repeatedly fail to arrest Valdez Cruz when he violated her order of protection?
The police were called every day. Every day, and all they did was tell them, buddy, take a walk and don't come back.
You had a mother of 2 young children who was screaming out for help, was screaming out for support, was screaming out for protection. And that as a result of those screams, she was treated as though she were a doorstop.
At least one juror says she can't comprehend why cops failed to arrest Joanna's violent ex before it was too late.
What stuck with me was how Joanna was so terrified by the 3rd time he tried to break into the house, that she was sleeping between her stepfather and her mother. That just stayed with me. And the terror, and I could never understand, why did they let him go?
The Bird family wins a $7.7 million settlement in a lawsuit against Nassau County. And police launch an internal affairs investigation, eventually producing a 781-page report on how officers mishandled the Bird case.
This report, for the first time, tells us what really happened in the case of Joanna Bird. It tells us what the police did and what they didn't do.
But the details of that report remain officially secret. The county and its police unions argue that under state law, police disciplinary records must be kept confidential to protect the privacy of the officers.
They're supposed to protect and serve, not to keep secret. If you don't have accountability and you do things in secret, you can't expect change.
In 2020, after the murder of George Floyd, the New York State Legislature votes to change the law and allow public access to police internal affairs records. Even so, Nassau police brass continue to deny Newsday's requests for the records in the Bird case. Many of the documents they do supply are heavily blacked out.
I don't think they want people to know how many times they failed.
Finally, the secret disciplinary documents are revealed in a strange way. Under Freedom of Information laws, USA Today requests records for a different law enforcement story, and the Nassau DA's office attaches the entire Byrd report. USA Today shares it with Newsday's investigative team.
And I couldn't believe it. I still shake when I think about it.
14 officers are involved, twice the number previously admitted by the county. Among the dozens of charges, failure to do even the most basic investigative work, such as identifying people on the scene, failure to complete domestic violence reports, falsifying notes, and failure to verify Byrd had an order of protection, which, had it been enforced, might have saved her life.
But the accused cops catch a break. The county and the PBA cut a deal. For at least 13 of the 14 officers, only one charge is upheld: failure to perform their duty or violating department rules.
The department blacks out its decision on Officer Thomas Shevlin, who later becomes president of the Nassau PBA. Sources tell Newsday all but one of the other cops were punished with loss of paid sick and vacation time, from 24 days to just 4 hours. One officer was retrained. None were fired or demoted.
The fact that nobody lost their jobs in this case and that nobody was prosecuted in this case shows how invalid the process is when you have the police investigating themselves.
I think it would help if people knew what was going on.
Joanna Byrd's family says they hope exposing Joanna's full story will send a message.
There's good cops and there's bad cops. You know what I mean? I believe that. And I think it would make police officers think twice.
Meanwhile, Joanna's son, Leo, just 4 when his mom was killed, has blossomed into a high school athlete. His older sister, Nana, named after Joanna, is now studying cosmetology, a profession that reminds her of a mother she had all too little time with.
Yeah, she always liked doing my hair. She would do like little designs in my hair with the flat iron and like stars and hearts and stuff.
The hardest part of it is she was never able to see her daughter grow up. She's never going to see her get married. She's never going to see her have kids.
And do you think your mother is looking over you, watching you?
She is.
Nassau County, the PBA, and all of the accused officers refused to be interviewed for our story. The murder of Joanna Byrd focused a harsh spotlight on how police handle domestic violence cases on Long Island. Victim advocates tell Newsday cops are doing a better job at making mandatory arrests. In both counties, police say they review all cases to ensure victims are safe to break the cycle of violence. And the number of domestic violence reports has steadily been falling. But Nassau police still won't officially release the internal affairs report on what happened to Joanna Byrd, and they refuse to give any detail about the reforms they say they put in place after Byrd was killed. Meanwhile, Newsday has learned Nassau and Suffolk rank last in New York State in terms of shelter space for those trying to escape their abusers. Even today, experts estimate as many as half of all domestic incidents between partners are never reported. I'm Faith Jesse. Thanks for watching.